Good afternoon and good morning from Brussels, distinguished guests and participants. I am very happy to join you today, although only virtually. I hope you can hear me well and that you can also see my presentation. It is my great pleasure to give you an overview about the system of controls and enforcement of geographical indications in the European Union. Geographical indications are intellectual property rights that safeguard tradition, culinary and cultural heritage, and preserve and create the job opportunities in rural areas. As IP rights, they provide important layer of protection to producers and also to farmers. However, the strength of this protection lies not only in the defined rules and legal recognition, but also in the ability to verify the compliance, prevent imitations and misuse of GI products, and enforce the GI rights effectively. For consumers, geographical indications represent a promise of authenticity and quality. And to ensure that this promise is actually delivered, a strong system of controls and enforcement of geographical indications is essential. And it is also essential for preserving the integrity and the credibility of the system as a whole and enable geographical indications to succeed on the market. And as for the European economy, geographical indication represent the important value. The EU GI system places an important focus on the controls and enforcement of geographical indications. The EU system of geographical indications has been well functioning for more than 30 years, but last year the system actually underwent a reform, and we have now a new regulation for geographical indications. The system before was already sound and well functioning, but essentially the main reason the reform was to further streamline and clarify the legal framework and also to strengthen further the protection and enforcement of geographical indications. This reform has brought several novelties, and some of them have direct or even indirect impact on controls and enforcement. And I will mention the most important elements later on in my presentation. However, I would like to also briefly explain the basic architecture of the controls and enforcement system in the EU, which remained unchanged. So in the EU, controls and enforcement of GIs are responsibility of member states, and the EU only oversees the system, and the Commission provides the necessary guidance. Controls of geographical indications must be done at two levels. They must be done at the production level, which means that the product is placed on the market, and there must be a verification of compliance with the product specification. And then the second stage of controls happen on the marketplace, which means that the geographical indications are also being controlled on the market when they are being sold. As I mentioned, controls and also enforcement are responsibility of member states. So in the European Union, member states have the obligation to designate the competent authority that will be responsible for these controls. And these authorities can be either one or more competent authority, which is usually some public authority or public body, or it can be one or more delegated body or even a natural person to which certain official control tasks have been delegated. However, here it is important to mention that delegated bodies and natural persons can only perform the controls at production level. So it means before the product is being placed on the market. And delegated bodies must be also accredited. We have two standards defined in the regulation according to which these delegated bodies must be accredited. And these rules also apply to third countries. This means that when applications for registration of geographical indications are being submitted by the third country to the European Union, the applicant must provide evidence that GI production is being controlled, either by the competent authority or by the product certification body. And how are these controls actually being carried out, and what do they entail? So when we talk about the controls at production level, we talk about verification of qualities and characteristics of the final product. So to confirm that the product complies with all the requirements and the conditions that are defined in the product specifications. These controls are primarily covering primary producers and also processors. And every GI producers must be covered by a system of controls. The controls concern organoleptic and analytical testing of products, which is usually done by taking samples. And the second element of these controls is the check of traceability, which means that authorities also control the documents. For example, they check invoices to ensure that there is a balance between the inputs that were used in the production process and the amount of the products that were produced by the certain producers. And all these controls are being carried out based on a control plan. Then, when the products are being placed on the market, competent authorities have to also control them in order to ensure that GI names are not being misused and infringed. These controls are being carried out systematically based on a risk analysis. Of course, it is not possible to control all the geographical indications that are protected in the European Union. So it is the job of the control authority to prepare the risk analysis, which takes into account the past experience and also, for example, which products are being sold a lot on the domestic market and which are in the risk of being infringed. This is usually the case for very famous geographical indications. So it means that also the competent authority in the member state must not only control geographical indications from its own country, but also from other EU member states. And controls also actually cover the geographical indications from third countries that are being protected in the European Union. So including the geographical indications from Southeast Asia. This is to ensure, again, that these geographical indications are authentic and they are not being produced by someone else and their reputation would be misused. And these controls mainly concern the check of labeling, presentation, packaging, advertising, and possibly also the checks of traceability, which means the check of documents. They are being carried out systematically, which means that they cover the whole supply chain. They can be performed at the shops, at supermarkets, but also in restaurants, at other marketplaces. And it is also important to mention that nowadays the competent authorities have to check also the online marketplaces. When it comes to the infringements and non-compliances found by member states, it is again the responsibility of member states to deal with these infringements. So it means that authorities have to take appropriate administrative and/or judicial measures to prevent the unlawful use of the geographical indication names, but it is up to the system in each member state to define the system of fines and sanctions. So even in the European Union, from country to country, the sanctions for infringement of geographical indication might differ. But it is always important that these actions are effective, dissuasive, and should be proportionate. So it means that whenever we talk about something that is more considered as a with non-compliance, it is normal that there is maybe a lower administrative fine, or in case of more serious issues, the producer might be ordered to withdraw the product from the market. And in case of, for example, the food fraud that is involving a geographical indication, in some member states, even the criminal actions can be pursued. And coming back to the new rules for geographical indications, I mentioned that there are several novelties that also concern controls. I would like to mention a few of these novelties. So starting with the increased protection of geographical indications on online markets. In recent years, the significant part of our shopping takes place online, and this also includes food. This has also impacted the geographical indications, but the problem is that at the same time, when being sold online, geographical indications become also subject to infringements on online marketplaces. Very often you can find on different online platforms the product that is marketed as geographical indication, whereas sometimes already based on the picture, you can tell that the product is not a geographical indication, and the seller is just misusing the reputation of the famous GI product, which is, however, problematic because it causes harm to authentic producers of geographical indications and also misleads the consumers, and thus undermines the trust in geographical indications. And in some cases, the ads like this also lead to more serious cases which involve the whole chain of food fraud. So this was the reason why in the new rules for geographical indications in the European Union, we have strengthened the protection of geographical indications. And now any promotion, sales, or advertising taking place online that would infringe protection of geographical indications is considered as illegal content in the European Union within the meaning of the Digital Services Act, which is the separate EU regulation that covers digital services in the EU. And according to these rules, such content should be removed. So this means that member state authorities should also monitor online platforms and issue an order to act and to take down these kind of misleading and infringing ads when they find them. Another novelty in the European Union system of geographical indication is a concept of recognized producer groups. This is the concept that has been actually functioning already in some European member states, for example, in Italy or Spain. And we have seen, based on experience, that when there is a recognized producer group, that is the group which represents the majority of producers, geographical indications are better managed, and these groups are better placed to protect their geographical indications more effectively and to act more effectively in case there is some infringement or some problem. Therefore, in the new rules for for geographical indications, the European Union encourages member states to adopt such a system on a voluntary basis. So it means that it is not an obligation. But if member states decide to adopt such a system and to recognize producer groups, these groups are then equipped with stronger competencies. The member states also communicate the names of these groups to the Commission, and Commission publishes these names and also the contact details of these recognized producer groups in e-Ambrosia, which is the legal register for geographical indications in the European Union. And this is a very important feature because the idea is to facilitate the contact of recognized producer group by law enforcement authorities or by enforcement authorities in general. So when they find some infringement on the market, the enforcement authorities can access e-Ambrosia and they can check if there is the recognized producer group or the geographical indication, and they can directly contact this group, which facilitates the whole action and which would enable the recognized producer group to act and take action more quickly. Because we have seen from the experience that sometimes enforcement authorities didn't know whom exactly they should contact. Then there is another novelty in the system, which has been asked by the several producer groups already for some time. And these rules now concern the use of geographical indication name in the name of process products. Because we have seen, and the producer groups have seen on the market that it was happening very often that there was a producer of some process product. For example, on the picture you can see Grana Padano pasta sauce, so the producer was producing some process product, which itself was not geographical indication, but it was using the name of this geographical indication and thus profiting from the reputation of the geographical indication. However, in many cases, when you go and check the actual ingredients of these products, the geographical indication is included in a very small amount, or sometimes it is not included at all. It is just replaced by some cheaper and more general ingredient. This was the reason why we now included in the regulation the conditions that the producers of processed food must comply with if they want to use the GI name in the name of their processed product. So in such case, the processed product cannot contain any other product that would be comparable to the geographical indication ingredient. The ingredient must be used in sufficient quantity. So this is in order to prevent the situation that you would go to ingredient and you see on the labeling that GI is used, the amount of GI is 0.01 percentage. And exactly the percentage of the GI ingredient should be displayed on the label. And going back to my previous slide of the concept of recognized producer group, if there is a recognized producer group for geographical indication, the producers of these processed products should notify such recognized producer group about the use of the geographical indication name in their product. Again, this is for the producer groups to have the overview of who is using the name of the GI to be able to monitor the market and act more quickly in case of infringement. Some other novelty that was included in geographical indication regulation is the attestation of compliance with the product specification, the aim of which is to facilitate the recognition of authentic geographical indication products on the market. This means that the competent authorities in member states now must issue the attestation of compliance, which is sort of certification to producers if the producers request to have this attestation. The member states might decide how they want to implement this system. They were given the option either to create the system where when they would be giving the producers the attestation either in physical or digital form, or they can create the more simplified system where the member state authorities would just create the list of approved operators and producers would have the possibility to download the copy of this certificate of compliance. As you can see, this measure is only applicable as of 1st January of this year. Although the new rules for geographical indications are already in place since May of last year, but this delay was with the objective to give the member state authorities the time to prepare and to implement this system. And importantly, these attestations of compliance can be used by producers to declare that they are complying with the product specifications. For example, they can use it in relation to the buyers, like when they are selling their product supermarkets. But on the other hand, these certificates can also be asked by enforcement authorities or by customs if they want proof from the GI producers that they are authentic producers of the certain product. And last novelty that I would like to mention is the sustainability. Sustainability has become a very important topic in many discussions around food in recent years because we have also noticed at global level the shift at the consumer behavior. The consumers are seeking for the food products that often support local economies, that has a certain value, that recognizes the quality and appreciates and further valorize the local know-how. And this is exactly what the function the geographical indications are fulfilling. What is, however, happening is that although many of geographical indications have been already produced in a sustainable way, it is not always known to consumers. So with the view to give more visibility to sustainability efforts of producers of geographical indications, it is now possible in the European system that producers of geographical indications can agree on sustainability practices. It is important to mention that this is voluntary, but if they agree and they decide to put these measures in the product specification, they automatically become mandatory for all producers. And of course, it means that they are also being subject of controls. And when it comes to sustainable practices, in our regulation, we don't strictly define what is sustainable practice, but we have the non-exhaustive list of such practices. And lastly, I would like to mention two more aspects that are very pertinent for the controls of geographical indications. Infringements of GIs happens normally also in foreign markets, so not necessarily just on the national market of the country where the GI comes from. And these situations require the cooperation among national control authorities from different member states. So in order to facilitate this communication and cooperation, in the European Union, the Commission has created the system that enables member state authorities to put notification and communicate these notifications about possible violation of GI protection to one or more member state authorities. And this network is also being monitored. And in case of observing the potential case of fraud, it may also lead to coordinated action among law enforcement authorities. Here it is, however, needed to be mentioned that it is not the services of DG Agri responsible for this system, but it is the services responsible for the health issues, and the whole network is being monitored by Europol, which is the European Union Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation. And lastly, as controls of geographical indications require authorities to control all GIs protected in the EU market, it is also important that member states have available tools for such controls. And this is where two European Union databases of geographical indications play an important role. It is eAmbrosia, which is the legal register for geographical indications, and GIView, which is the database that also includes all geographical indications protected in the EU market, either directly or via direct registration or via the bilateral agreements. So the member state authorities can consult these two databases because they can find there the single documents, which are summaries of product specifications. So when they are checking GIs on the market, these databases are the reference that they can use. And I reached the end of my presentation. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer the questions you may have.